Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Onyx Tavern Vlog series on shortsighted ToQger. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today we got station number 45, The Home We Left Behind. And this is a real mess of an episode, folks, because it's just so frustrating and annoying, and I really hate Wright for what he does in this episode. Not because I feel for the plight, but because I think Wright is stupid, selfish, arrogant, and frankly, he's just kind of given up, I think, is the problem. And it's really hard to sympathize with him in this episode for all the things that he has done. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about what happens. So first of all, the good news is they finally got their hometown back. Subarugahama is back up on the map. All the residents are there. They're all doing their normal thing, and everybody should be happy at this point. But, as we established in the last episode, because Wright became the Black Ranger because he's filled with darkness, that's going to cause some issues for the team. Now, they give us an answer, but it really doesn't feel like an answer because it's more speculation than anything. Because as the president tells us, I have one theory, this is what I believe has happened. Now, I don't know if they're going to confirm this in the next or final episode, or if we're really just supposed to take his theory as being fact. But as we established, we found out that the ToQger were children that became adults. It was through the intervention of the Rainbow Line president. That he needed somebody to help defeat the Shadow Line, and children were his best option for whatever reason. I'm not sure what his exact rationale was back in that episode, but in order for them to fight, they would have to become adults. Again, forgetting that several Sentai teams in the past have allowed you to change from child to adult, with a few exceptions here and there, which was pointed out to me in a previous video. Nevertheless, that was the plan, and Wright was brought along with them. Now, what this episode is basically retconning or contradicting, I'm not exactly sure. But what this episode is trying to say is that the whole reason Wright became an adult is because he is filled with Zet's darkness. That's what they're trying to go ahead and say in this episode. That it's not the Rainbow Line president that did this through his, I'm going to call rainbow or light magic, whatever you want to call it, but through the dark magic or the darkness, that's how Wright became what he is. And this entire time through the series, it's been festering through him. Now, of course, Mio brings up the contradiction that this has never been a problem before in the series. But here it is. It is a problem, 2 steps from the end. This is something we have to go ahead and deal with, and the way in which it's dealt really sucks, and I'll get to that in a little bit more detail here. But basically, again, what this episode's trying to say is the whole reason Wright is an adult and the reason that Zet has a connection with him is because it's the darkness that made him adult. It is Zet's darkness. It's not just regular darkness, it is Zet's pure, uncut darkness, if you will. That has caused his transformation to an adult, and of course, the reason we find him on the Dark Line at the beginning, the Shadow Line at the beginning of the series, as opposed to the Rainbow Line. Nevertheless, he still ends up having a morpher and yada 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 and all that. The thing is about this is, again, they're trying to make a connection between Wright and Zet, but they did it in the worst way possible because basically what's becoming is that part of Zet is in Wright and part of Wright is in Zet. It is kind of what it is. Because we go to Zet in the episode, it's like the whole reason he was obsessed with things that sparkle and what made him kind of lethargic and less of a villain this season is because the light fascinated him. And it's only now that he actually does something about it because he understands the nature of the sparkle of the light. And again, I want to get into that a little bit more detail because that actually is the most interesting part of the episode. Nevertheless, it is this, it's not even a dichotomy between the two. It's like, okay, a little bit's in there, a little bit's in here. But they really started off things on a high note when this series began. When we first got the introduction of Zet, he essentially became friends with Wright. And I like that they shared some sort of common bond, that they had this interest in things that sparkle. That's basically how the whole episode got started. And then we devolved into this antagonistic relationship without any hint of that initial friendship. Because what I took that to mean when I first saw it was that if it wasn't for all this, we could be friends. You know, the famous line, perhaps in another reality, I could have called you friend. And that's what I really thought they were kind of going for here, is that maybe by the end of the series, Zet would have to choose between the light and the darkness, and he chooses his friend out of loyalty, and he becomes ToQ Shiro or whatever, ToQ White or whatever he would become. That was what my initial thought was at the beginning of the series, is that this guy has a connection and he's going to bring him over from the dark side. But again, that's not what we got, and I think that if we'd gone a route similar to that we built their friendship, then all this would pay off better. But as is, it doesn't pay off. There is no further connection between Zet and Wright other than that initial encounter that they had when we thought, again, they had this kind of kinship or friendship to them. But again, the connection that is there is because the darkness got into Wright, and Zet sees the sparkle, so he became fascinated by it. It's not he's fascinated by Wright. It's not that Wright had an impact on him. It is that he was curious about something and he was trying to follow it to figure out where that would lead him and what it was. And again, what they were doing with Zet, actually by the end here, I like. Again, I want to get into that, but I really want to talk about what's going on with the Rainbow Line, because there's a lot of crazy stuff there. But to sum up this particular plot point, I just don't think it works. I think it really falls flat. It's not particularly interesting. Why do we have this connection that's not even based on actual friendship or interaction between the two? That's what irks me, is that there is no connection. I mean, to go back to, another science fiction, you have Star Wars. You have that instant connection between Luke and Vader because they are father and son. There's something more there than I fight for good and you fight for evil. I'm trying to tempt you to the dark side. There is that connection. But with Zet and Wright, there is no connection that's in the series, again, other than that assumed friendship that we thought we were going to go ahead and start, but they just kind of dropped that by the wayside. So that really bothers me. Okay, so now that Subaru Gahama is back, imagine what the first thing the ToQgers do. Do you think they go back to their families, or they go to the town just to make sure everything is all right? I guess kind of stalk them, whatever, or just to see what's going on? Nope. They stand on the beach and look at the ocean. Yes, they don't actually look at their town. They're not actually in the town. They are on the beach, look into the ocean, being reminded of everything. I'm sorry, were you not able to get a permit to film in the town? Could you only get a permit to film on the beach? Because they spent their entire time trying to get back to Subaru-Gahama, and they're not actually in Subaru-Gahama. They're at the station, in the Rainbow Line, or on the beach. They're not actually in the town. They're not interacting. They're not going in there and doing anything, at least in their adult forms. So it just kind of like, again, it falls flat. They're talking about the town, they're just looking out to the ocean, where all they gotta do is turn a little bit to the left. Oh yeah, that's the hometown that we've been looking for this entire time. Why don't we go ribbon this in there? Because you could have easily written that scene where they go in town, it's like, I remember this. Oh yeah, this is where I would go skateboarding, or this is where I would park my bike, or that's where I had that accident at the flower shop, or whatever. You could do any number of things, but I guess it'd be cliche and all that, but it's the natural thing to do. I mean, it's not like you go back to your hometown and you stand on the beach looking at the ocean and not looking at the actual home that you've been to. It's like me going back to Louisville and standing on the banks of the Ohio River and just looking over to Indiana. Boy, I love my hometown so much. If I can only remember things about it. And all I gotta do is turn around and there it is. I mean, that's just... again, that's really, really annoying. But what comes next... Okay, I know what they're setting up. So Wright, I guess he feels guilty about all this. He feels that he is a liability. Now, which, again, this is something that the ToQger felt in the previous episode, which is why he remained where he was. But because Wright came out and, encountered Zet and morphed, he became the Black Ranger, the Dark Ranger, whatever you want to go ahead and call it. Now, as I said, for consequences, I want consequences to matter. But what Wright does in this episode are not consequences from what he has done, but these are his worries of what he may do and trying to intervene to make sure that the others don't get hurt. And the episode's trying to go for the fact that he is trying to be self-sacrificing, that he wants them to be safe while he faces the danger all by himself. But again, I think that is incredibly selfish of him to do. And the way he goes about it is completely stupid. Okay, so first of all, he takes the rainbow passes from the other Rangers, and of course that's the term I was looking for last time. I apologize for it, but trying to take the rainbow passes from them. Now, when he takes the rainbow passes from them, they can't get back on the train unless they try to climb through the window like he did. But they can't get back on. So he's about to go out there with the rainbow line by himself to confront Zet, because he doesn't want the other Rangers to be harmed. He doesn't want the darkness that's in him to continue to affect them, because it's stated that it is affecting them in some way, and to lead to their downfall or defeat. But the problem I have with this is that he goes in alone. He doesn't even wait for Akira to confront Zet when the castle terminal has arisen to the city, whether it's Saburugahama or someplace else. It's risen, and he's going to do it by himself. Further, he actually destroys their rainbow passes, which it's the dumbest thing in the episode, actually, other than his motivations, because, first of all, Wagon goes along with this. The conductor, ticket, and the president all seem to go along with this idea. They take their rainbow passes and put them in the furnace. Yes, there's a furnace. And believe it or not, the fire in the furnace actually destroys them. I will repeat that. The rainbow passes were destroyed by a simple fire. You know, it's a wonder why in the series the monsters never aimed for their belt buckles and destroy the ranger passes, because apparently if you do that, if the rainbow pass is destroyed, then the ToQger will turn back into their child forms, and they will completely forget their memories of being the ToQger, because that's exactly what happens. When Wagon destroys the rainbow passes, again, in the fire, the other four ToQger turn into children, and they don't remember a thing, and they go back to Subarugahama. Really, that is what is happening here. So, you're telling me this rainbow pass is easily destroyed and is the linchpin to their memories and them being adults? No, don't take their morphers or their Resha away. That would make sense. But the rainbow pass, which is on their belt buckles and exposed. Again, all Monster have to do is shoot it, destroy it, because if a simple fire can destroy it, then I'm assuming a bullet or a laser could do that. And let's not forget the time Takachi lost his pass, which luckily was just on the rainbow line itself. But what if it was ran over by a bus or thrown into a trash compactor or lost into the ocean? What would have happened then? Takachi would have been screwed. He would have been turned back into a child. If he was on the rainbow line or somewhere outside Subarugahama, he wouldn't have a clue where his home is, and he'd be an orphan. Does anybody understand how ridiculously stupid that is? And of course, Wright's idea is, yeah, let's turn them back into children, let's take their powers away, and let's erase their memories of anything that is happening, and I'm going to go in alone. Again, it's supposed to be self-sacrificing, and he's willing to lay down his life for this, but he's coming off as so selfish in this. I'm like, I'm going to let these guys do their thing, let them, I'm going to screw them over so I can go save everybody. And yes, you could probably say he's given into the darkness and everything, but why does everybody go along with it? Why does the president, conductor, ticket, and wagon all think... And Akira, I think Akira agrees with it, because he's fine with it too, apparently. Everybody's fine with them doing this. And again, it's incredibly selfish on Wright's part, because I have this to ask you, Wright. What if you fail? Because I'm assuming he's going to go in there with one of two purposes. Either A, to actually destroy the rainbow, destroy the shadow line and bring final victory, or because he knows he's full of darkness and maybe it's not reversible, or maybe he's given into the darkness, this guy may have a death wish just like Akira, and maybe he sets himself up to fail. Who knows? We don't know at this point because he's acting so stupid in this episode. So what if you fail, Wright? What if you fail? Well, you've already destroyed the rainbow passes, which means the other four ToQger cannot get on with new passes. They would have to be turned children again by the rainbow line, and who knows if they'd have their memories intact. I'm assuming their morphers are still on them since you only took the rainbow pass, but again, it might be tied into the morpher. Who knows at this particular point? You're defeated. Akira's the last one there, and depending if you use Zords or not, you could be losing all the Zords in this battle. And of course, if you lose, if Akira loses and the Rainbow Line loses, then you're back to square one. Subaru Gahama is going to be brought into the darkness, and so is the rest of the world until the other Sentai get involved. Oh, and by the way, as we've already established, the Kyoryuger, they have absolutely no effect on the Shadow Line with their weapons. So I can only hope that the other Sentai will be helpful. I mean, I could see Dynaman coming in, maybe using their explosions to go ahead and help, with the Zoo Ranger descending from heaven once more. But what effectiveness they have, I don't know. Now, of course, it's just speculating now, but again, if you lose, what is there to prevent the Shadow Line from doing everything and starting this whole damn thing over again? Because you know what? If you lose, Subaru Gahama's gone, it's likely the Rainbow President might not be able to get the kids back, so he'll have to go someplace else, get another bunch of children. You know what you could have done, right? Maybe instead of taking a Rainbow Passes, maybe you could have taken their morphers and given them to the band members. Yeah, those guys that came in and just played a song for you guys. If you are so concerned about the others, being children and not bringing them to get affected by darkness, why don't you wrangle up some other Rangers to replace them? Get the damn Rainbow Line personnel in there. Get that girl playing drums, give her Kagura's morpher, and send her in the battle. Because it's the whole Rainbow Line, right? I'm assuming there are people there, and the president has already shown on a number of occasions that he can go ahead and create new powers. He created the first five, he created Akira's. Maybe he should create new powers. Maybe he should say, I am going to get rid of our four most important assets. Why don't you give me more morphers and all that? Maybe more Zords. That'd be helpful. We can go ahead and do that. But no, that doesn't cross their minds either. And now, of course, when they actually go back to Subaru Gahama as kids, it's supposed to be heartwarming and touching, and they're finally back home and reunite with their parents and people they've only been missing for a couple of months. And I know it's got that to it, but they're not going to be children much longer. They're going to come back for the final battle. That Wright's going to have a change of heart, or they're going to change their heart, or Akira's going to do something. Somebody's going to do something to where they get back into the battle. And frankly, at this point, it doesn't matter how they get back in. They're just going to get back in, and they're going to go ahead and fight, come to the rescue, and they're going to give some sort of lesson about, Wright, you need us, and how dare you do that. I mean, I'd be fucking pissed at Wright for that kind of stuff. And I'm sorry to swear. I don't usually swear in these videos, but I would be so effing pissed at Wright for doing that if that was me. If I was Hikari, I'd punch him in the face. Jeez, if I was me, I'd punch him in the face. If I was Takachi, I'd punch him in the face. If I was Kagura, I'd punch him in the face. Heck, if I was Ticket, I would punch him in the face. Again, I look at it as being incredibly selfish on Wright's part for doing this. It's not noble. It's not a great sacrifice. You need all the help you can go ahead and get. If it was simple as he actually had to sacrifice himself, like one of the ToQger had to sacrifice themselves, then I can get Wright doing it. But he took these guys out of the game. I mean, it's like going into a war zone in the Middle East and you take away the bullets from everybody's gun except yours, and you go into this mission assuming you're going to go ahead and succeed, but you take the bullets away from everybody else so that, sorry guys, you can't fight, so you go ahead and stay home. I mean, can you imagine if that was done in any type of movie where a soldier takes the weapons from another soldier, say, you can't fight, so go home, I'm going to do it myself, and of course leave him at a disadvantage to be attacked by the enemy? Oh, that's just... okay. So I hope I made my point clear on that. Now, what actually does work in this episode is Zet himself. First off, I don't know why Glitter is still in the castle. Maybe she has to stay at that terminal to make sure it rises or goes further into the darkness or whatever the heck she's doing with it. But of course she gets confronted by Zet. They have this little dialogue, and Zet outright murders her. I mean, he doesn't destroy her or anything. It seems like he murders her from the scream and the fact that he has his sword out in that scene. That's a little dark. I like it because it does show, like I said, the consequences of things. Glitter could have been safe all by herself. She had her own train. She could go anywhere she wanted, do anything she wanted. She chose to come back and help the ToQger. And what happened for all that? She died, and yes, she freed Saburuga, but was it a noble sacrifice? Was it worth the sacrifice? I don't know, because I don't know how this is all going to go ahead and end, and what could have been if Glitter didn't get involved. But she just got outright murdered for it, and that's really dark on Zet's part. It really is, and that really shows him to be this villain. I mean, yeah, we saw him, kill Schwartz and the Madam and all that, but I mean, he straight up murdered Glitter in cold blood, basically. Yeah, I know they have kind of this antagonistic relationship already based on what's happened, but man, that's just cruel. But then what goes in next is that he's like, we're gonna go ahead and attack, is what he says. He seems to be tired of all the crap. He's like, I am done with it. Let's go up there. And Mork's like, have you finally get up on the sparkle thing? And he says, and this is according to the translation, and I quote, "I was never anything but darkness to begin with," unquote. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard the story of the frog and the scorpion, the fox and the scorpion, or whatever. And I'm going to repeat it for those of you who have not. Basically, a frog is on a riverbank, and a scorpion comes up to him and says, "Hey, I want to go to the other side. Could you go ahead and give me a ride?" And the frog's like, "Hey, if I do that, you might sting me, and I might, die and drown and everything." And the scorpion's like, don't worry, I'm not going to go ahead and do that. So the scorpion gets up on the frog's back. They're halfway across the river. The scorpion stings the frog, and the frog's like, "Why? Why did you do that? They were both going to die." And the scorpion says, "It's in my nature." And I think that's really telling with what we have here with Zet, because that's basically what he's saying. It's in my nature. I am darkness incarnate. I am the ruler of all darkness. This is what I am. This is who I am. There's nothing I can change about that. Basically, at this point, as my interpretation stands, Zet has given into the darkness. The entire season, he's been fighting it. He saw light in the darkness. He saw chance for redemption. He saw hope. He saw fate. He saw something out there, and he was reaching for it this entire time. Now he realizes he can't have it, that he was always darkness. There was no opportunity for him to change whatsoever, that his path was always going to be that of darkness, and now he's given up. That's why he murdered Glitter. That's something he wouldn't do before, because Glitter had sparkle in her. He wouldn't have had this attack on the surface. I mean, again, the whole reason he hasn't really done anything through the series is because he's interested in the light. He doesn't want to destroy it. He wants to know more about it. He wants it to be part of him. But now he's given up on that. And he has nothing to lose. He has nothing to gain. He recognizes that he is the darkness. He is the nothingness. So he's going to go all out now. He's going to go ahead and attack everybody. And a man that has given up on everything that he believed in or he thought he could strive for. I mean, he's given up on himself. He's given up on life. And that is the more interesting story here. Again, Wright's actions are horrible. The other Rangers, they're not doing much. Even my favorite character is not doing much in this. The person who's had the most change in his personality and has had a goal that he was trying to reach has failed to reach that goal, and look what it's done to him. And who knows what else it's going to do him in the last 2 episodes here. I feel bad for Zet, I really do. Because what is it we're always trying to go ahead and say is that we can change, we can better ourselves, we can be more than we are. But Zet, he is darkness. And what is it saying is that he can't change. No matter what he wants to do, he cannot escape being darkness. He cannot escape being the Emperor of Darkness. And that's a very sad story. And I don't know how it's going to end for him. I mean, again, I thought he was going to be one of these villains that might reform in some way and become a ranger of his own. But that doesn't seem to be happening. What will happen? Let's go ahead and find out when we get Station 46. But I think his story is the most interesting of the series. And I think this one line at the end sums that up. It really makes you feel bad for him. I feel bad more for Zet than I feel for Wright. But again, Wright's just acting stupid. I'm sure if Zet acted a lot more stupid, I wouldn't feel for him as much. But Wright, Maybe I can see maybe Wright's falling into that same thing. He's like, I was good, and maybe this darkness is taking over me, and that's what he thinks is going to define him now. So that's why he's got to do what he does, is that he is going to become darkness, that he has given up on the fact of being brought back to the light, as it were. I don't know. We'll have to go ahead and see, and I hope there's a better payoff. But man, oh man, um, Wright was just stupid this episode. And again, I don't hate him or anything. I do think he's one of the weakest Red Rangers out there, but I do think Hikari is my favorite. And I am really surprised Hikari went along with handing him his rainbow pass when all this happened. And again, if I was Hikari, I'd punch him in the face next time I see him. But we'll see what happens. So 2 episodes left, folks. Let's get to Station 46 next time and find out where this goes. But until then, I want to thank you for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.